12. Shaka Zulu, the Iklwa. Shaka changed war with a simple idea, that is, stop throwing spears and stab with them. His Iklwa was short, wide-bladed, built for close quarters fighting. He drilled his warriors to run hard, lock shields, and then strike again and again until the enemy line cracked. No more loose skirmishes. Battles became tight, breathless, and brutal. His bull horns formation wrapped around enemies like the chest held them. The horns curled in from both sides, and the loins waited behind to chase the broken. It was discipline more than metal, training more than luck. With the Iklwa in hand and iron in the ranks, Shaka built a power that reshaped the lands around him, showing that a short spear, used the right way, can be stronger than any long blade thrown from far away. Tokugawa Ieyasu, the matchlock and the sword. In lands of swords, Ieyasu listened to gunfire. He kept the katana as a symbol of rank and duty, but he trusted the matchlock in battle. His gunners fired in turns, one line shooting while the other reloaded, keeping a steady rain of lead that broke charges and shattered pride. Instead of throwing tradition, he balanced it. Samurai honor stood beside rows of ashigaru with guns, old and new working as one. As Sekigahara, the discipline mattered more than style. When the smoke cleared, Ieyasu stood on the road to peace, and the shogunate he founded would hold Japan for centuries. The lesson was keep what works and add what wins. Alexander the Great, the Sarissa. Alexander of Macedon was still young when he set out to take the world. His soldiers carried Sarissa with a spear unlike any other. Nearly 18 feet long, it was twice the length of normal spears. When rows of men stood together, the Sarissas formed a wall of sharp points. Like a moving fortress, horses would not charge it, and enemies could never break past it. Step by step, the phalanx pushed forward, holding enemies at bay. Then, at the right moment, Alexander led his cavalry from the side, crushing whatever remained. The Sarissa carried him from Greece to Egypt, Persia, and even India. Yet it wasn't flawless. On rough ground or in close spaces, its size became a weakness. Alexander's brilliance was knowing exactly when to use it. From those countless spears, the tale moves west, into Europe's forest, where a king's sword was his crown. Charlemagne, the sword Joyeuse. When Europe was torn apart by tribes and kingdoms, Charlemagne rose to unite it. His weapon was his sword, Joyeuse, and it carried more than just sharp steel. Legends say Joyeuse sparkled with light, that it contained holy relics, and that it could blind enemies with its brilliance. Whether true or not, it was a king's beautiful, balanced sword, which is a symbol of divine right. In Charlemagne's hand, this blade was more than a weapon. They saw unity, protection, and destiny here. With Joyeuse, he spread his empire across Europe, defending Christianity and bringing order where chaos reigned. Even after his death, Joyeuse lived on. For centuries, French kings carried it in coronation ceremonies, a reminder that the empire he built was born in steel and faith. But while Charlemagne's sword shined with glory, far in the east, another blade, curved like the crescent moon, was slicing through armored invaders. Saladin, the Scimitar. The deserts of the Holy Land were Saladin's home. When facing crusaders in heavy armor, his weapon of choice was the swift, agile Scimitar. Its curved blade made it deadly in fast slashes, especially from horseback. Where crusader swords were heavy and slow, the Scimitar danced, light, sharp, and elegant. It turned desert battles into poetry of steel. Saladin himself was more than a fighter. He was a leader known for his honor. He treated even his enemies with respect, and his weapon reflected that. Efficient, graceful, never wasted. When he retook Jerusalem, it wasn't just a victory of arms, but of spirit. The Scimitar came to symbolize Islamic strength and resistance, gleaming under the desert sun. But in the West, another general was preparing a weapon, not of steel, but of flesh and bone. A weapon that shook the earth with every step. Hannibal Barca, the war elephant. A long time ago, Rome thought nobody could ever beat them. And then Hannibal appeared, the cunning general who unleashed war elephants. Imagine huge animals taller than any man, covered in armor, with sharp tusks like giant spears. When they marched over the freezing Alps, everyone was shocked. At the Battle of Trebia, the Romans saw these beasts charging, and fear alone made them stumble. But Hannibal's greatest victory, Cannae, wasn't about elephants at all. He tricked the Romans with a smart plan. His weak soldiers pretended to lose, pulling Rome inside, while his strong troops closed in from both sides. The Romans were trapped like mice in a cage. Hannibal showed that sometimes brains, not just big beasts, win the day. Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab, the simple sword. Umar was not born into riches. He did not rule with jewels or armies of elephants. His power came from belief, discipline, and a plain sword. When he became the second caliph, Islam was still fragile. Yet with his leadership, armies carrying nothing more than simple blades swept through Persia, Syria, and Egypt. Unlike Charlemagne's jeweled Joyeuse or Saladin's elegant Scimitar, Umar's sword was just plain iron. What made it strong was not the steel, but the man holding it. His justice, his discipline, his faith, these were sharper than any edge. That simple sword carved out one of the fastest growing empires in history, proving that greatness doesn't always need gold or glory. But power has its dark side. When weapons stop defending and start terrifying, and no one embodied that more than the Scourge of Europe, who rode with a blade said to be sent by the gods. Attila the Hun, the Sword of Mars. When Attila rode, Europe trembled. His warriors burned towns, broke armies, and demanded tributes from kings. At the center of the storm was a blade said to be blessed by the gods, the Sword of Mars. Legend claimed it was a gift from the war god himself, proof that Attila was chosen to rule the world. His followers believed it completely. To his enemies, the story alone was enough to strike terror. With the sword, Attila became the Scourge of God, feared across Europe. Rome itself nearly fell to his wrath. The blade may have just been steel, but belief made it divine. It showed how sometimes the greatest weapon is not what it's made out of, but what men believe about it. From stories of terror, we return to Rome, where a general's sword was not magical, but it built an empire. Julius Caesar, the Gladius. Rome's power was built on not stories, but on discipline. At the heart of its legions was the Gladius, a short stabbing sword. It was not meant for duels, but for formations. Shield by shield, Rome advanced. Then, with deadly precision, the Gladius struck again and again. Julius Caesar mastered the system. In Gaul, he led legions whose gladii carved out new provinces and riches for Rome. The weapon wasn't about one man's skill, it was about thousands moving as one. But Caesar's own death proved Gladius's darker side. He was cut down not by foreign enemies, but by Roman blades in the Senate. The same steel that built his empire ended his life. From Rome, we crossed back to Persia, where another king's sword told a different story. Not of betrayal, but of mercy. Cyrus the Great, the Akinakes. Cyrus the Great, founder of the Persian Empire, carried a short sword called the Akinakes. It was plain, practical, and often worn at the hip. Unlike Hannibal's elephants or Attila's legendary blade, Cyrus's sword was not about fear. It was about balance and control. He conquered lands but allowed people to keep their faiths and traditions. He used his sword not to destroy, but to protect the order he created. The Akinakes symbolized restraint. Cyrus showed the world that a conqueror could be remembered not for cruelty, but for fairness. Centuries later, another leader would rise in Europe, whose curved blade cut fast and sharp across the continent. His name was Napoleon. Napoleon Bonaparte, the Saber. Napoleon was known for his speed. His armies marched faster than anyone else, striking before enemies could prepare. His symbol was the saber, curved, sharp, and perfect for a quick cavalry charge. Fast, elegant, and deadly. Just like him. But his greatest weapon wasn't only steel, it was the cannon. When Napoleon's guns roared, the ground shook, walls crumbled, and soldiers lost their courage. At Austerlitz, his cannons turned the tide, proving that fire and strategy could crush kings. Yet no weapon lasts forever. At Waterloo, heavy rains turned the fields into mud, cannons sank, and their power was silenced. Napoleon's empire broke with them. While Europe slept, the endless steppes gave rise to a weapon made of wood, horn, and string, its mighty bow. Genghis Khan, the Composite Bow. From the wild grasslands of Mongolia rode Genghis Khan, a leader who changed the world. More than a sword or a crown, his deadliest tool was a simple bow crafted from wood, horn, and sinew. The Mongol bow was short but powerful, strong enough to pierce armor from far away. On horseback, his riders could shoot while galloping at full speed, sending waves of arrows before enemies could even fight back. They didn't need castles or heavy armor. Like hunters, they circled their foes, striking again and again until whole armies collapsed. With this bow, Genghis united tribes, defeated kingdoms, and built the largest empire ever seen. Simple, fast, and unstoppable. The bow was more than a weapon, it was the spirit of the Mongols. For more, like, share, and subscribe, and also comment your thoughts and favorites.